Of all the hundreds and maybe even thousands of players that participated, what jumped out at you while you were there? What really got your notice?
Well, I think Jadeveon Clowney put up numbers in the measurables that including the 40-yard dash, that were really outstanding. If you wanted to say, hey, prototypical guy, this is central casting, this is what you design at the design studio, he's it in terms of measurables and athletic ability. And then on the other side of the coin, or the other side of the line, Robinson, the offensive tackle, from Auburn, really ran a sub-5 40 at 333 pounds. So, I mean, and believe me, he is a destroyer on the field. So these two guys are rare athletes. I'm not sure we've seen two like them in recent years in terms of their physical abilities.
Bill, how much stock do you put in the combine? Can you love a player going into the combine and then lose interest based on how he performs?
Yeah, absolutely right. The numbers matter. It's not the be-all and end-all, and a guy with numbers and no ability is a guy with no ability. He's not going to play. But people who fall in that vast middle area play or don't play largely based on how they perform athletically. They're called measurables because they are measurable, and they are measures of success. If you look at the data over the years, this is, I think, my 34th combine. I hate to admit to that, but you look at the data over the years, the measurables always stand up. And so it is important. It's not as positive, but it's important.
All right. That being said, Michael Sam ran about almost a 5.40. Does that hurt him?
Yes, very, very much so. He makes his living as a pass rusher at Missouri, and whether he's 4.9 or 5 flat, it's not good enough to rush the passer in the National Football League. Very few people with those numbers are successful. By comparison, Clowney was 4.57, I believe, and Dwight Freeney was 4.56. Dwight Freeney has 100 sacks. Robert Mathis was 4.57. He has 100 sacks. It's really hard at 5 flat or even 4.9 to be a good pass rusher in the NFL.
Then let me ask you this, Bill. He was the co-SEC Defensive Player of the Year. So he runs that poorly at the Combine. Does that wipe away what he did with Missouri this year in the eyes of the NFL?
Pretty much. Don't forget that award was given by the press. It wasn't voted by the coaches.
Okay.
And scouts will tell you that 11 of his 13 sacks came against very subpar, in 3 games against subpar opponents. That said, I thought that he played awfully well toward the end of the season. He's not a bust. He'll be drafted. He'll have to make it on guts and special teams play and toughness. And I think he's got more than enough of that. But he is not going to be a guy who hears his name called on the first day. And I would doubt, unless he does markedly better at his pro day on campus this spring, that he'll hear his name called on the second day.
Johnny Manziel, where do you stand on him, and where do you think he'll go?
Well, truth in lending, my son was on the Texas A&M staff, and I spent some time there, and actually was there the day Johnny won the job in the inter-squad scrimmage in camp. So I know a lot about him. I think he's terrific. He's a terrific young guy. He's a dedicated football player. Let no one fool you or tell you that Johnny isn't a dedicated football player. He is. He's a gym rat. He studies the game. He loves the game. He's very, very highly competitive, and he's a great athlete, as his numbers attest. His style is different, and he's short. That's the bottom line. And he's much more a Doug Flutie, Fran Tarkenton, for those who are really old like me, than he is Russell Wilson. So it's a different style of play. If you can adapt that to your offense, and we now know that the small quarterback can play. After all, he's an inch taller than Russell. Then you got yourself a keeper. He's a very good and talented player. He's got a great throwing arm. He's very accurate.
The Jets, it was reported, met with Bortles. Bortles could be a high draft pick in the first round. The Jets don't pick till 18th. Why would a team meet with him unless they have a desire to move up?
Well, it's not necessarily that they have a desire to move up. They want to know about him because he could fall down. You can't predict these things. Just because a guy is predicted to be, number 8 or 9 now doesn't mean that'll be what it is on draft day. So that's point one. Point two, you're compiling data that you're going to use 4 years from now in free agency.
Yeah.
So he's an important guy. You want to have that. You want to have that information in the bank, so to speak. And then you never know. You never know what crops up. Someone might offer you a trade up. You can't predict what happens on draft day, so you need to be prepared. They're just doing their due diligence.
Now, if Bill Polian is running a team this year with this draft and you needed a quarterback, would you take Teddy Bridgewater or would you take Johnny Manziel?
I would say this to you. I think that Teddy Bridgewater is the most capable of coming in right now and fitting into a traditional pro-style offense. I don't think any of these quarterbacks are ready to play right away.